Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Philosophy of Fitness podcast, episode number 67. My name is Haley. I'm going to be your host today, and every single day that you are tuning in, guys, I have an awesome episode for you today that I'm so excited for you to hear. I am joined with James Boria. So, funny enough, we actually live in the same town, but I didn't know who he was until a mutual friend suggested that he come on the show, and I'm so grateful. So shout out to Richie if you're listening to this. But James is actually training to bear crawl an ultra marathon. Yes, you heard that correctly. He is going to be bear crawling an ultra marathon in the fall of next year. He's going to be bear crawling 31 miles from Brooklyn out to Long Island, which is insane. So I was like, I have to have you come on the show. I can't wait to hear all about your training and your journey. So we had an awesome conversation. We obviously cover all of his training, diving into that, a lot of mindset stuff, a lot of how your mindset kind of shapes what you're able to do physically. We cover so many different topics, fitness influencers and some of the shitty advice that they're giving people. Thinking about who you look up to. We really cover it all. We had such an amazing conversation, and James is so inspiring. He's so driven, and I think it's so incredible what he's doing. So he's the first person to ever do this, which is pretty crazy. Somebody bear crawled a regular marathon a few years ago, but nobody has bear crawled an ultra marathon. So he's literally venturing into uncharted territory. So I'm so excited for you guys to hear this episode, to hear James and what he has to share and all of his insight, which is super inspiring. So if you're interested in hearing this episode, you know what to do, my friends. Go ahead and stay tuned. All right, guys, welcome back to the Philosophy of Fitness podcast. Today, I have James Boria here. James, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, big shout out to our friend Richie who connected us with each other. He told me about you, and I was like, guy that's bear crawling an ultra marathon? Like, what is that? I was like, I need to hear the story behind that. So very excited to have you. Shout out to Richie.
Yeah, shout out to Richie. I appreciate it. So thanks, Richie, for hooking us up.
Yeah. So I don't even know where to start with this. I guess a good place to start would be kind of your journey with fitness. Has that always been like a big part of your life, or did that kind of come? I know you played sports in college. Like, did that come from the sports side of things, or have you always been interested in working out?
So I wouldn't say it's been a real interest of mine my whole life, even though I played sports. The fitness side of it, I was always into athletics, baseball specifically. And it's funny because before we hopped on this podcast, I was actually thinking about it. And I remember I had a trainer in like my sophomore year of college because I did some strength training. And I remember saying to him vividly, I was like, after college, like, I'm never going to, be into strength training or any sort of physical activity. And he was like, I think you're wrong, but we'll see. And now, I was completely wrong, but I was never really interested in it. And then as of the last year, I really started to get into it more, the endurance type stuff, more for the mindset. So it's funny how I never thought I would be into it. And now I'm like full blast, like every day, maybe twice a day, bear crawling, first person to bear crawl an ultra marathon type thing. So
yeah.
Complete 180 complete 180.
Yeah. I so resonate with that because like I was so unathletic growing up. Like I was the last kid to finish running the mile, like sucked at sports. Like we had to play sports at the high school I went to, but I was on like the lowest tier. We had something called like a thirds team, which was a step below like JV. So it was like really bad kids would play those. And I was like, yeah, like I'm not into this at all. And then later on as life went on, like now it's such a big part of my life. So I totally like resonate with the 180 thing for sure.
Yeah, I think just sports was its own, deal in general. And then adding the fitness component on top of it, I never just really got into it. I was in it for the wrong reasons. Now I found it for the right reason. And it's just like, I could never imagine living without it. It's like, I was talking to my buddy about this a while ago, and he was saying, because he was the same way, college, got the best of us, partying, all that nonsense. And then he was like, there was a time in my life where I couldn't even imagine like just going to the gym. And now it's like, I can't even imagine not going to the gym. So it's crazy how you can just change like that. But that's kind of the whole story, my whole story at least.
Yeah. Like I said, I relate to that so much. Like there was a point even for like, partying is such a huge part of college. So it's like thinking of like, now I think about like, I have my morning routine and like, I love going to bed early and like having tea before I go to bed. And it's like that version of me, like never in a million years would have like thought that was something that was valuable. So it's kind of crazy how people can change so much. And I know you touched on something a little bit where you said that you like doing the endurance stuff for the mindset portion of it. So can you kind of explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So I don't even know where to start with that, but it kind of, as I was starting to change my life around, I started to realize that fitness was a good way to just figure out how you're feeling about certain things and like what values you hold true. And as I got into the endurance space, I did a challenge called the 4x4x48. That was like the first thing I ever did. Obviously, David Goggins.
Yeah.
And he does that where you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And that was one of the first things I did where I was just like, I'm going to try this out, see what happens. And I really found out a lot about myself through that, of just like what I was made of, how I could push through when, I didn't think I could go anymore. And I was like, okay, this is definitely a good sign and I should keep this up, because it made my mind so clear. And it's the same thing with bear crawling. Like when I did 6 miles yesterday and I had the time of my life, because you go into an activity like that's extremely strenuous and you have 15, 20 things on your mind. Just that's life. And then after you go through that, you leave and you're like, okay, there was one thing that was nagging me during that whole 4 hours. That's probably something that I should put my energy into. Everything else doesn't really matter. So it almost acted as like a filter mindset wise to, okay, these are the things that I should be worried about or concerned about. And everything else is just fluff when, it comes down to the wire of like, I feel like I'm going to die right now.
Yeah. Wow. I love that analogy of like thinking of it as a filter, because I feel like there's something that happens. And that's a big part of why I started this podcast, is just like understanding the mind body connection. It's like there's something that happens internally when you're pushing your limits, where you almost have this like ability to block out the noise. Like I don't run anywhere near as much as you do, but like even if I go for like a 6 mile run or something like that, I feel like I get to this place in my mind where it's like, you almost not even like you sort of just like see what sort of comes to the surface, but you're also able to like let go of the things that don't matter as much. It's like therapeutic in a way.
Yeah. And that's what's been crazy about this whole process, is it's been such a roller coaster of like trying to figure out I'm figuring out myself, but also I'm becoming a totally different person, as like, in the sense of I'm just extremely grateful for like even the opportunity to like put myself through something like this. And it's just become so simple as to where like my mindset now is just like anything else in life has become extra. Like, waking up in the morning, being that thankful to wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
That's a win. Just small wins, because there's so many things that you can't even control with something like this. So you kind of have to surrender to the fact of like, I just have to worry about what I can control, take things as they come to me. And then all the good is extra, like I've been talking to a lot of different brands, meeting a lot of cool people, podcasts, and it's like, you go into it with all these expectations, and then you realize that all the expectations that you have are just setting you up for failure. So it's been cool to just take things as they come and just be extremely simple, extremely grateful. And that's not something I thought I would go into this and take out of it, but it's been like the biggest takeaway of just like, look how lucky you are to just be even experiencing like a struggle.
Yeah, I love that.
Struggle that I chose.
Yeah. It's people don't realize, I think, how much gratitude can like change things. And I think that fitness in particular is something that, at least for me, like brought it to the surface so much of like, I'm so thankful that I'm able to challenge myself in the way that I am, because there's people out there that would, kill to be able to do something like that. And I saw you post something recently about your morning routine, and I was laughing because I was reading your list of everything. I'm like, this is literally my morning routine, like to a T, like journaling, gratitude, meditation. So when did sort of like the idea of gratitude come to the surface for you? Did that happen before you started training for this, or was that like a result of the endurance training?
Yeah, so that goes back to pretty much almost a year ago, year and a half, maybe a little bit over a year ago. This time last year, maybe October, before the bear crawl, before anything, before I even knew where I wanted to go in my life. It was a time coming out of COVID, and COVID was big for me, kind of in a growth phase of, I came out of college, or I was graduating college. I was playing baseball. It was my senior year, and everything just got stripped from me. And I was in a bad relationship. I wouldn't say it was bad, but it wasn't really serving me well. And, baseball was like my avenue my whole life. I thought I wanted to be a professional baseball player so badly. And then when I went to college, I lost that. But then COVID happened and everything got stripped from me. And I remember sitting there vividly one moment, and I was just like, how did I get here? Like, this is not who I wanted to be. This is not who I thought I was going to be. what happened. And then that led me to the summer. I started to turn things around. Then I got back to school, and I was living in a studio apartment by myself. And I was like, okay, how can I turn this thing around? And obviously you start doing research. I started to come across people on Instagram who were more in that line of work of, self-help, self-growth. And, they woke up early and they journaled, and that led me to journaling. And I played around with journaling for a little bit before, but I never really got the purpose of it, but I saw it through. I was just like, I'm gonna write down how my day went, whatever, and figured it out. And then during that fall of about a year ago, I started really journaling, like with intention. And I started off for a while with just gratitude, and it really set the tone for everything else. And then after I was, about a month of just doing that, it started to expand. And that was the foundation of everything, really, to where I am now.
Yeah.
So it's extremely important to me. I know I won't miss a day. If at the end of that post, I put like the staples, and gratitude journaling is one of them. Like, no matter what, if I only have 5 minutes in the morning, like if say I miraculously, never happens, but if I woke up and I need to be somewhere in 5 minutes, I'm journaling. I'm not leaving my house unless I journal.
Yeah. I so relate to that. Like if I miss a day, this sounds so silly, but if I'm like driving in the car, I'll literally just like say it out loud. Like, thank you, universe. I'm so grateful that I have this. Like, I'll squeeze it in like any chance that I get. And I think something that you kind of touched on that I think a lot of people relate to is like COVID was such a wake up call for so many people. And I think it forced a lot of us to like slow down and reevaluate. And I relate so much to your journey. Like for me, I sort of like had a similar experience, but it was at the end of 2019. Like I had a terrible breakup. Like it was just a low point of my life. And that's when I really started like questioning everything and like exploring myself more and like really getting to know myself. And it was through that sort of like falling apart, and it was through things like being stripped away that we actually kind of find out who we are. And it sounds like it's hard to kind of like comprehend that at a surface level, and it sounds scary, but it's like, that's something that also gives me hope moving forward, is that like, if something's falling out of your life, it's making space for something else to fall into it, and even space for you to like explore yourself more. So it sounds like that's kind of what that whole journey was like for you too.
Yeah, it was just, it was almost like a gut check. It was just like, this is what can happen if you're not like consciously focusing on not on yourself. You should focus on yourself, but not in a selfish manner. But like, if you're just letting things fall by the wayside, if you don't have a plan, if you're not showing up every day with intention, this is what could happen. Because like, I loved baseball and I would never deny that, but somehow I still ended up in a position where it was like, I'm just not happy with where I ended up. And I think that's something that a lot of people, and a point I try to hone in on, is like, you could still be doing the right things every day, but if you're not doing them with intention, if you're not setting goals, if you're not trying to push yourself, you still might not end up where you want to be. And like, it relates to something I tell people all the time. A lot of my athletes, it's just like, just because you're working hard and just because you're going through the motions, like, I know you've been told a lot of times that hard work equals success. That's not really true. Like, you have to work hard with intention. You have to set plans. You have to know how you're going to get there. You have to show up daily and do all of the right things. You can't just work hard, put your nose down, and then you look up and everything's there.
Yeah.
I did that. All right, I thought I did that, and I was just not in the right. Didn't know where I wanted to be. How could you don't even set a direction,
Yeah.
So
that's such a good point. It's like, I feel like a lot of people forget, and it's easy to get caught in that trap of going through the motions where it's like, well, on paper, I'm doing all the right things. Like, there's been points in my life too, like where I'm like, well, I'm journaling, I'm doing all this stuff, but like something still isn't sitting right, or something's like not connecting in the right way. So it's like, when that happens, I think it's so important to just take a step back and maybe like reevaluate, like you said, set goals and have like the vision in mind and hold on to the vision. Because if you're kind of stuck on that, like, I almost think of it as like hustle culture. I think it's a lot of toxic. Sometimes people tell you, like, work out every day, like don't take any rest days. Like, no, there's so much value to be had from like sitting with yourself and like reflecting and reevaluating. And sometimes that's the thing that people need to like push them to the next level.
Yeah. And I can relate to that hustle culture thing completely, because I mean, if you see at the bottom of all my Instagram posts, I put never stop hustling. That's like my thing.
Yeah.
And we can go into that story and how it kind of ties into my life and the bear crawl. But people ask me that question all the time. They're like, is it the same thing as hustle culture? And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, I can hustle in so many different ways, but I hustle with intention. And I hustle, like, you say hustle and rest, and people are like, what? And I'm like, no, I'm hustling when I'm resting, because it's going to allow me to go extremely hard tomorrow. And I know that my mind needs it. Like, I did 6 miles yesterday. I won't even, except now that we're talking about it, I won't even think about the bear crawl. Like I want to enjoy my day. I want to relax. I'm just a normal person today.
Yeah.
Because I know tomorrow it's back to work. So I'm hustling today, just not in the way people would think. Or like, on this podcast, I'm showing up with 100% intention, right? I have a goal in mind that I want to get across, certain things that we want to cover. That's hustling. But there's like, it has nothing to do with the hustle culture of like, you're bringing your work home and, your family doesn't matter. And, you wake up and breathe work. Like that's all BS. That's how you're never going to get to where you want to go that way. There's different avenues and you have to show up 100% in each of them, including rest.
Yeah. That's a fast track to a burnout, by the way, thinking that you can just like hustle through stuff like, And I know people in the fitness space, like I have friends who promote that. Like they're like, work fucking harder. Like, it's no shade at anybody, but it's like, no, like people shouldn't feel guilty or like ashamed for resting. And I think something else you touched on too, that's a really interesting perspective that I haven't heard is just like thinking of hustling in a different perspective. Like hustling doesn't mean you're like burning yourself to the ground. Like hustling can mean a lot of different things. Hustling can even mean being really good with your daily routine of like, I'm hustling with meditating every day. Like I'm setting aside time to make intentions for the day or like journal or gratitude. Like that in a way is hustling too, even though at face value, we're so conditioned to think that hustling is just like the grind, that it's like never stopping.
Yeah. I mean, and that's one of the things that I found beneficial of like, creating content and different things like that. It's totally free reign. So I adopted that word and I just made it what I want. And all hustling means to me is just showing up and wherever you are in that moment, you have to give 100% to that moment. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You could be doing absolutely nothing, but like have a purpose. Because for a while, I knew what it was like to live without a goal, a direction, a purpose. And that wasn't hustling, but I was still, I was practicing 3 hours a day. I was doing all these things, but I didn't get anywhere. There was no plan. I wasn't really hustling. I was just that hustle culture of like, put your nose down, just trust the process kind of thing. Not that I don't believe in that. I think you should, but you have to have a process with that. But yeah, I mean, there definitely is a time and a place for like the, work harder, no one cares type thing. Mm-hmm. But you kind of have to get to that space. And the way I like to think of that is because I do like, you do a lot like mindset work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think of it as like when I, especially my athletes, or even I do a lot of like general health and wellness, like not everybody I work with wants to have that same mentality. Like I have a switch where I could turn that on because I need to. There's going to be times like when I'm bear crawling 31 miles next October, it's not going to be all fun and dandy. Like, oh, I don't feel like doing it. Let me rest. Like, no, I have to do it. Like there's going to be times where I don't want to keep going, but I have to. Nobody cares, whatever. There's a time and a place for that. But I don't like to put that out there because that's not what fitness should be for most people. Most people aren't taking my perspective into, I'm going to go be the first person to ever do something. Most people are okay with not doing that. They just want to show up and they want it to be a part of their day. So I don't think it's like, I'm trying to think of something that it relates to my life. Like, I don't know, say reading, for example. Like I like reading and I write a lot, but like, it's not my 100% focus. And a lot of people, their focus is not 100% fitness. So I would never want somebody to be like, nobody cares. Read. You got to read.
Yeah.
I don't really want to read like today. Maybe, so you get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
not
for
everyone
sure.
has that same perspective of like 100% all in, even though it works.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's just, I always tell people that I work with too, like, fitness is not one size fits all. Nutrition isn't one size fits all. Like there's nothing out there that's like, here's the cheat code to your life. And like, you can just plug in and this is like, what's going to work for you. Like everyone's different and everyone has different things that resonate with them. So yeah, there's a group of people out there that like that work fucking harder mentality. Like that's their jam and it works so well for them. And then there's people out there that are on the other side of it where they're like, let me just show up for this hour and let me not like beat myself up if like maybe I didn't, lift as heavy as I wanted to or like run quite as fast as I wanted to. So it's like kind of just finding like what resonates with you and what works for you. Cause at least in my experience, I'm sure you can relate to like everyone is different, especially when it comes to fitness.
100%. And I think I'm just more on the side of like, that's not how I could roll, cause I'm one of those guys where it's like, I have to, if I didn't have this idea of hustle that I have, I wouldn't make it anywhere. because I truly believe that anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Like it's clear with the bear crawler, like social media, I want to do as much as I can. So if I don't find that, okay, I have to tune it back, and I don't have that switch.
Yeah.
If I just live that one way, I'll never make it anywhere. I need time to in person, and it's been hard to portray on social media because most of the content comes from being that kind of guy where it's like I wake up at 4:30 in the morning and I'm doing my morning routine, and then I bear crawl 4 miles, and then but that's not me.
Yeah.
It's like I literally say to Richie all the time, I'm like, dude, I feel like I live 2 lives. Like my morning is like so structured, boom, and then I come to work and I'm like laughing. I don't get.
Yeah.
I don't even know who I was in the morning, but I need that switch, because if I don't have that relaxation, that turn off, or any other avenue where I can direct 100% focus into, because that's who I am, I'll burn out 100%.
Yeah, I feel like especially with social media, it's so easy to view people as like one dimensional. And I was having this conversation with a friend of mine like a few weeks ago where it's like, we show up on social media a certain way. Like I'm sure that I give off like a certain image of like, being super into spirituality and fitness and stuff. But like I have like a funny, goofy side too. Like when I go to work at Psycho Bar, like I'm laughing, I'm joking around, like the same thing that you are. And it's like, no one's one dimensional. Like it's not like we're just like constantly in hustle mode. Like if you don't meditate, like, whatever, get out of my way. Like, so yeah, it's really interesting how like social media has kind of made things seem like they can only be one dimensional. And especially with your interpretation of like never stop hustling, like I really didn't even know your full explanation behind that, like when I had seen it. So it's kind of cool to hear that there's like a different, view of it.
Yeah, and I still struggle with portraying myself correctly on social media, not just that one side. And I noticed it for the first time the other day, because like you post content and you put it out there and you think it's valuable, but then you're just worried about like, okay, I have my blog on Tuesdays, my whatever, that posting whatever.
Yeah.
And I made a post, and it was like just joking around, and I sent it to my buddy as like a joke, and he was like, I don't think you should post that. And I was like, why? And he was like, that's not you. Like, that's like kind of like joking around. Like, you're kind of serious to the point. And I'm just like, damn, like I'm that guy. Like, I'm that guy already.
Like why can't I be both?
Yeah. And it's been tough. But like you said, I mean, you try to be intentional and you try and provide value, and you don't want to, beat issues like,
Yeah.
So you got to be unique and creative, and not like oversell. Like I can only post never stop hustling so many times, or like what it means. So I think that's also why a lot of people don't know what it means, but it's just the beginning.
Yeah, no, I feel that with the whole social media thing. Like, I'm like, I have a TikTok now, and like I'm trying to grow on there, and I'm like, I feel like I can be a little bit more myself over on there, but like there's still this like disconnect with my Instagram where I'm like, maybe I like shouldn't post that. Like it doesn't really fit with my brand. But I don't know. The more that I like explore it, the more I'm like, why is it in the influencer space or like the social media space? Like, why can't we be like, a full person? And I think that's like part of why I love TikTok so much, is like people are so authentic on there. Like people are so open and so real on there. And I feel like the age of like the fitness influencer that like looks picture perfect all the time and like has a picture perfect routine, like that's dying, because like people can see right through it. Like they know it's not, real and sustainable. So
yeah, I mean, the whole space is just, I think about it in a couple of different ways, but I'm just like, a lot of the people that have that image of like, this is how you do it, there's one cookie cutter way, it's like, it's not even right. It's not even like good information. It's just like, that's completely wrong. Like, why are you selling it to people? Like I have so many, I'm sure you can relate to, I have so many people come to me in the gym and they're like, oh, I want to work out, 3 hours a week, and I want to be, or lose X amount of weight by, say December, Christmas. I'm like, that's just not possible.
Yeah.
Like, well, how do you eat? I don't know, but I just want to work out, it's not, I can't help you there, right? Unless you want to learn how to eat right. We could do everything. You could take my training program on. You're not going to lose weight. Like,
Mm-hmm.
But it's just so misinformed that it makes me so mad. I'm just like, sometimes I'm like, I don't even know why I waste my time. Like trying to put this stuff out there. Cause it's like everybody goes right to the guy that has like, that post is quickest way to get a 6-pack. And I'm just like,
it's like lose 20 pounds in a month.
Likes.
Like,
and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But It's an interesting space for sure.
It is. Yeah. And like people that like aren't certified at all, like this, I see it all the time with like girls that are fitness influencers that like they aren't certified, but they're like, oh, this is how you like build a huge butt, like with just doing air squats. It's like, that's not realistic. And like, you don't need, like people put this information out, but it's like, if you're a consumer of it, like check out who you're following and just like see if the math checks out. Like, I know it sounds silly, but like at least make sure they have some kind of like qualification. And like also, just because something worked for one person like doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone. Like my fitness program, your fitness program doesn't mean it's going to work for every single person. Like everyone is so different.
That's why I hate doing like nutrition. Like I'm a fitness guy and people ask me to do meal plans and stuff, and I'm like, bro, I will eat the same thing 3 times a day every day. I can't give you, like, it works for me. And I'm not saying it won't work for you. If you want to try what I do, I'll help you, but I'm not going to sit here and like try and figure out what you like and all these little switches. I don't know. I don't eat like that. I don't know. I don't go to I go to the grocery store. It's the same thing every time. I could do it with my blindfolded.
Yeah.
Like I eat the same thing. I can't tell you.
I have like the same rotation of like 5 meals that I have.
Yeah. That's why I don't do it. Cause I'm like, it's not that I don't know enough. It's just like, I don't even know, besides what I eat, I don't really want to get creative with like, okay, let me give you this vegetable or yada, yada, yada. So that's why I don't do meal plans, because everything is so unique. Everybody's so different.
Yeah. So. It is. It's so unique. And like, that's something that I took on this year, was doing nutrition coaching. And it's like, it takes so much time to sit down with a client and like understand their preferences and what they like, what they don't like, and like their patterns around food. It's like, it's a whole catered, process. Like it's almost like a fingerprint. Like it's so specific. And that's why like some of these like cookie cutter programs that, influencers put out too, like I've seen people that beat themselves up because they're like, well, why am I like not seeing results? Like this worked for this person. Like, why is it not working for me? It's because maybe it's just like not the right program for you. Like you just need to explore a little bit more. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you.
Have you ever heard of Greg Doucette?
No, who's that?
He's a YouTuber. He's absolutely nuts, but he's a nutrition guy. He was like a bodybuilder. He like had the world record for like bench press, but he's a character. So like his videos are extremely entertaining, but he goes onto like all like Gymshark athletes and all these different types of people. And he's like, he breaks it down of like why it's wrong. And he's an extreme advocate of just like the misinformation. He just like corrects it all. But I think you would like him. He's funny. Yeah. He's a good time to watch.
What's his name?
Greg Doucette.
Greg Doucette. I'm going to have to check him out. That sounds like right up my alley.
Yeah, he does like all those he does all those cookie cutter workout programs too, and the meal plans of like V-Shred. I'm sure you know V-Shred.
Yeah. Oh my God. His ads. He must spend millions of dollars, because I swear to God, every time I'm on YouTube, I see that freaking ad. It's so annoying.
It's because he's good looking, but that's the problem. Yeah. It's all these good looking people. And everyone's like, I want to look like that. Yeah.
No, for sure. That's so funny. There's someone else. I think his name is like Obese to Beast or something. You should check him out, because he like I don't know what his name is in real life, but that's his name on YouTube. But he I think he might be a Twitch streamer too, but he talks about all that kind of stuff too, like people that advocate for like crash diets, or like influencers that give out shitty advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know this guy.
Yeah,
I haven't seen any of his stuff, but I'm gonna check it out. Yeah, I like that. I love people like that just expose everything.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely check him out.
So here's a question for you, because I didn't even get a chance to ask yet. Why specifically did you decide to bear crawl for the ultramarathon? Like, why not just run it?
Yeah, so all right, so this goes back a little while. So it's going to kind of a long story, because there's a lot of ways that I got into it, and there's no specific thing deserves all the credit. But so this was back when because it's only been done once before, which was a marathon. Somebody did 26.2 miles. This guy, Devin LeVake, which total inspiration for the whole thing, obviously, because he's the only one who's ever done it before. And I saw that he did it, and I was just extremely interested in it. Never thought that I was going to do it or anything. That wasn't my initial thought. And like Goggins and all those guys, I was just really interested in endurance events. So I was like, this is extremely unique. I'm going to look into this, read up on it. Listen to podcasts, and I came across this one podcast he was on, and I was actually driving back to New Hampshire. I came home for the weekend. Was driving back to New Hampshire, and on the podcast, he goes, somebody has to break it. Like somebody's going to do it. And I'm going to be really excited to cheer them across the finish line. And I was like, damn, that could be me. Like, wouldn't that be sick? And then obviously that initial limiting factor comes in where I'm just like, no, that doesn't make any sense. And I was like, well, what if, like, you know, what if that could be me? And I was like, I'm going to go tell my buddy and see what he says. So I drove back to New Hampshire. One of my best friends lived above me in the apartment complex. And I knocked on his door and we sat down and I was like, I'm going to bear crawl a marathon. And he was like, nah, he was like, you should bear crawl 26.3 miles.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, now I'm definitely going to do this because I just told him this crazy thing and he just shot back with like, nah, do more. And I was like, okay, like if he sees it in me, I should see it in myself. And this was before the baseball season started. So then fast forward through the season, I'm making, you know, obviously like dropping subtle hints, you know, you can call it manifesting.
Yeah.
Like I would tell my buddies in lift, like we would be, you know, strength training together with the team. And I would just be like, I feel so good. Like I could bear crawl a marathon, like, you know, just kind of convince myself. And I have a newsletter and I put it in my newsletter. And I remember I was out at a party one time and we were all drinking. And it was like one of the last nights I went out in college. And there was a freshman on my team. And he was like, he made me shake on it. He was like, you have, like, you're telling me to do it, like you have to do it. And I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. And season ends, I come home and I was like, I'm just going to try and crawl a mile, see what happens. And it was like the worst thing I've ever done. It was painful. I was just like, I can't believe I'm going to do this. I was like, I can't do this. And then that image of me shaking his hand came back into my head. And I was like, I have to do this. There's no other way around this. I lose all credibility. I wanted to build a brand. I wanted to get into social media. And I was like, if I start off on this note, there's no way anyone's ever going to listen to me. Right. And I feel like I do have something valuable to provide. So I kept training and, you know, was doing a lot of work and was getting up to like, I bear crawled 10 miles a couple of weeks ago and was getting very serious with it. And I decided to register for the world record to apply to break it through Guinness. And I got onto the Guinness website and there was no record holder. So I'm like, okay. This guy never set the record. So then I was faced with the dilemma of like, okay, I could apply to break this record and he did it in 20 hours and 48 minutes. So now if I go do it, there's a chance, as much as I don't want to admit it, don't finish it, I don't break the record or the unofficial record. Could I live with myself holding a record that I know was set, but never officially set? I can't walk around and take all the credit like I was the first person to do it. And I did it in 21 hours, 22 hours. So I was stuck. I was puzzled and I didn't know what to do. And then I came across one of my friends. I was connected to one of my friends who, you know, not good buddy of mine, but somebody I know now who works for at 10,000, the clothing company. And we were talking about, you know, working with the company for the crawl wearing their clothes. And he was like, can I ask you a question? I was like, sure, man, of course. He was like, have you ever thought about becoming the first person to bear crawl an ultra marathon instead of a marathon? And I was like, no, but that's fucking genius. He was like, it's 31 miles. Like it's, you know, I think you could do it. He was like, that'd be sick. So I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, damn, it's only 5 more miles. Not that bad. It's my own record. That solves that problem. First person to ever do it. Not too shabby. Fuck it. Let's do it. And I put it out there and that's how I got there. So long story, but
wow. No, that's crazy. That's so cool. Like even just thinking that you could be like the first person like in Guinness, I'm surprised that they didn't recognize the other guy that did it.
Yeah. And I haven't figured it out yet. I haven't applied to break it yet or to set it.
Yeah.
The ultra marathon, but it took him 20 hours. I'm assuming it was during COVID as well. Maybe they weren't coming out and doing it. I can't imagine that he wouldn't have wanted to set it, but for some reason it's not in there. So I'm going to see if I can. I don't even know if they'll walk with me for that long because now 31 miles is probably going to take me. I would like to finish it in 24 hours. That's very ambitious. More 25, 26.
Wow.
27 hours. So I don't even know if somebody's going to want to walk that long.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Get them to have a little golf cart drive next to you the whole time.
Yeah, they're going to be going really, really slow.
Yeah. I think about it too. Like I'm like thinking in my head, like bear crawling is brutal. Like even if I'm just doing it at the gym, like back and forth, like my knees are screaming. Like I can't imagine, you know, doing that.
It's been extremely interesting just to see how my body's adapted. but now it's like I don't want to say walk in the park, but like 6 miles was tough yesterday, but it's not tough to the point where it's like, this is the worst thing ever. Like I enjoy it. I really do, mentally as well. But when I first did it, that first mile, it was like really bad. My wrists were hurting, my ankles, my knees, my back, my shoulders were gassed. Now it's just like, I'm a little sore today, not that bad. But my right hip is the only thing that bothers me. Like now I can crawl for probably a half a mile without standing up. The only reason I will stand up is because my hip, or like the blood rushes to my head, because it's not really a normal position.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, so I get, I actually got a couple sinus infections from like hanging upside down.
Oh my God.
I think it was from the crawling. I don't know. I could be exaggerating.
Wow. Yeah, that's weird.
But yeah. But now like my wrists are like bulletproof. I can do like push-ups on the back of my hands.
Wow.
Some cool stuff. Yeah. But nothing I would ever recommend to anybody.
Yeah.
Don't go doing that. But it's been cool to see how you think, right? You think you break your body down. And it's just like, we're meant for endurance. We're meant to endure. We're meant to do difficult things mentally and physically. So it's been cool to actually see the physical result of my body, like responding and getting stronger after you just break it down. Like after I did 10 miles, I was like, I felt like a grandpa. Like I couldn't even get up the stairs because I did it on the beach from 2:30 in the morning till about like 10 a.m. the next day. Because it was in August. So it was so hot out. So I was like, the only way I can get this done in a 7-hour window is through the middle of the night. And it was cool at first. And then like reality settled in at like mile 4. And I was like, this absolutely sucks.
Yeah.
On the sand. It was so strenuous on like all my fingers. Because instead of like flat ground where you're just palming, I had to like grab into the sand and kind of pull. So my
running on sand too, as hard as it is. Like,
yeah, it was definitely a lot harder. And I've done it on pretty much every surface. I've done a couple miles on the track. It was terrible. I did the football field yesterday. I'll go back and forth at like a 30-yard turf some days. And then the concrete. I did the pavement around my neighborhood. There's some funny stories about that. But I mean, my hands haven't been torn up that much, even on the concrete. So that's good because I'm going to do it from the Brooklyn Bridge to Massapequa, where I am right now. I think it's like 30 miles. So it's like
that's where I am too, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You can come. You can be at the finish line, or you can walk some of it if you want.
Yeah.
The whole thing. Yeah.
What are some of your funny stories from the concrete? I know you said you had a few.
Yeah. So the first time I went on the concrete, it was like 6 in the morning, and obviously I can't see anything when I'm crawling. So I asked my mom, because she walks. So I was like, will you come with me and just walk around with me, make sure I don't, get run over or something?
Yeah.
She was like, yeah, sure. And I was crawling on the side of the road, obviously, and she was walking more towards the middle of the road. And I thought she had me. Like, I wasn't looking because I found in the beginning when I was first starting to get into, like, longer distances, if I started to look and see where I was going, it just felt longer for some reason. So I just wouldn't look. I was just like, I'm just going to try and focus on how I'm feeling. And if I feel like I need to stand up, I'll just stand up. So I wasn't looking up. Mistake. And there was a car parked on the side of the road, and I was like right for it. And it was like right before I was about to hit the car, like go right into the back bumper. And I have my headphones in, so I hear my mom like faintly yelling, and I'm like, what is she yelling at? And then I went head first into the back of the car. I thought I got run over.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Cracked the car. I was like so delirious. I was like, what's going on? I was like, am I dead?
Oh my God.
And I was like, how could you? I was like, I literally have you here for this reason. How could you let me go into the car? But I get people yelling some crazy shit at me. Like I was at the field yesterday, and this guy drove by on his bicycle, and I had my AirPods in, and he yelled something, and I took it out, and he was far away, and he was like, he either said you're a tough motherfucker or you're a dumb motherfucker. I don't know which one he said. Could have been either. Yeah. But I have people stop me all the time on the street, like, what are you doing? Or like I go on the treadmill at the gym, and people take pictures of me. It's a good conversation starter, but
yeah. If I saw you on the beach at 2 a.m. in the dark doing that, I'd be like, that man's possessed. Like,
it's funny because I did it from on Fire Island. I went from like Kismet to like Ocean Beach and back, and I guess through the night they kind of set up for construction the next day. So there was guys actually driving back and forth on the beach, and I was like, these guys definitely like, what the hell is wrong with this guy right now? If they could even see me, it was so dark.
Yeah. That's so funny.
A lot of good stories.
Yeah. So when you're crawling, like, you can't really hold like a water bottle or anything. Do you take breaks or do you just go?
Yeah. So the 10 miles I did, again, I don't recommend this for anyone that even if you're going to try it. I did it with no nutrition at all, just because I was on the beach and it was so dark. If I left my stuff somewhere, I would never be able to find it again, and I don't want to carry it. I wear a vest that holds my phone, just because I use the Whoop, but so I can check, see how long I'm going on my data. But did that with no nutrition. But at the field, when I go to the football field, I just leave it in the corner. And that's something I've been slowly working on is my nutrition, because it's hard. It's like I said, I've never done any type of endurance stuff, so this is like very beyond most endurance events.
Yeah.
So it's been tricky. I can't eat too much because I'll throw up, because it's just like when you eat and then hang upside down, obviously.
Oh my God, I can't even
You're
imagine.
not gonna stay down.
Yeah.
So I try and stick to more liquid. I've been using a carb supplement, electrolytes, which I ran out of yesterday at like 2 hours in. So now at least I know, because 6 to 10 miles is probably going to be most of my long crawls. I don't think I'm going to get up to I don't think I'm going to get close to the 31-mile distance until I do it.
Yeah.
It's because it's way too much on my body. So I'm trying to save myself as much as I can. I've been trying to find creative ways to train with my team. We've been coming up with different stuff, do 2 miles and then doing an hour on the assault bike and then 2 miles back. So it kind of simulates a 10 miler, but I only put 5 miles of actual strain on my wrists, my knees, my back.
Yeah.
So it's a learning curve for sure, but it's amazing. It's fun.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't even imagine, like, I know you sort of got into like what you're doing for the training for it. Like, do you do like regular running too, or you don't really factor that in?
No. We spoke about it. Me and my team spoke about implementing it, just because we need some kind of endurance, but it's tough because, running it does put a lot of strain, and it doesn't really correlate to the bear crawl position. So like I'm trying to use the rower or the Versa climber as more of my kind of, I want to say cardio, but kind of just my slow endurance, where I keep my heart rate between about like 60 to 80%, just cruising maybe for an hour or two. I haven't done any of that yet. I've just been sticking to straight crawling. I'll use the Versa climber a little bit, some band resisted crawling. I'll do intervals with a kettlebell. I'll pull like a 22 kilogram kettlebell for like 5 minutes at a time. So it adds a little more resistance, some strain, with less time on my hands and feet. So it's just trying to get creative, and I respect my whole team. Like my strength coach, this guy Warren. I don't know if you know him. It's a place called East Coast right here. They did my my baseball training now that he took on the bear crawl. But like, much respect to him, because it's like you really got to get creative. There's no plan. We're kind of making it up as we go. Because I tried to get in touch with the guy that did it. Haven't got in contact with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, he's a Flourish Gymshark guy, so it's like, I'm sure his DMs are blowing up.
Yeah.
Mine are low priority.
Yeah. Wow. Well, hey, I mean, no one's ever done it before, so it's like you're literally like creating a whole new A, like goal, and B, training plan that goes around it. I mean, unless that guy had some sort of plan that he released, but it sounds like he didn't.
No, I mean, there's not much of a plan, and I think it's just like, and this is, again, much respect to my coaches, because I have a mindset coach and my strength coach, and every day it's just like, it's a constant struggle between like whatever happens, and it's just like, what if I don't do it? Like I'm so like high and low. The lows are really low and the highs are really high, and I've kind of come to terms with the fact that now it's just like, I'm just going to do the best that I can. Whatever happens on the day happens on the day. And a lot of it's just going to come down to mental. Like, there's not going to be any sort of training that's going to simulate being 22 miles into a bear crawl with 10 miles left. Like you're never going to get there until you're there. You're not going to know what that feels like until you're there, which I'm excited about, but it's kind of nerve wracking as to like, I don't know what the hell's going to happen on the day of, but I'm giving it my best shot. So it's like that trust the process thing that we said before. So
yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Wow. That's about as trust the process as it gets. It's crazy. I like to ask everyone that comes on, so I'll ask you this too. What your understanding of the mind body connection is. I mean, I kind of already have an idea from what you've said, but if you want to like explain that a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, I use, like, I think when you originally say mind body, I think of like, you're doing a bicep curl, like you can feel your bicep, but mine is just like when you take your body, like your body and your mind, or your body will only go as far as your mind will push it. I think your body quits way before your mind. I know that to be true. And I think that's where it comes in. It's just like really anything's possible. You don't even understand how much your body can withstand, but like it's more of just your mind. Like your mind, I don't even know how to explain it.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's like it's so easy to sell yourself short. Like depending on, I always tell people this, like what your internal dialogue looks like is going to determine how much you can do. So it's like, if you're hyping yourself up, if you're speaking, well about yourself to yourself, like I can do this, I'm able to do this. Like I've even had that in my life. Like I've gone into something and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to do that. There's no way I'm going to finish 2,000 meters in, 7 minutes, whatever. Like if you set an intention, and this is something I do with not even just fitness, but like every area of your life. If you like set an intention with something of like, I am going to do this, and like affirm it to yourself and have faith in it, you're able to deliver so much more. And I've noticed that, like I said, in every single area of my life, but especially with fitness, like hype yourself up. I always tell people like hype yourself up. You'd be so amazed at how much your mind will allow you to do or prevent you from doing.
Yeah. I think that's the bread and the butter right there. It's just like, you have to hype yourself up. And I do it when I'm crawling. Like I legitimately talk to myself.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting there, my head's hanging, and I'm just like, come on, bro, you got this, let's go. And then it's the same thing, you stand up and you're like, shit, all right, nope, I'm good, let's do it, let's keep going. And I think it helps, that added factor, because like you sift through so many thoughts in your mind, but what you allow yourself to speak kind of adds another layer to it. It's like, okay, I should follow, I should believe that, it kind of sinks into the subconscious of like, okay, no, I'm good, I really am good, I'm hearing that.
Yeah.
All right. Instead of just letting it hang in your mind of like, no, I don't feel too good right now. Or like, even the positive ones where it's like, no, I'm good. Like say it to yourself. Let yourself know. Repeat it. Reaffirm it.
Yeah. Reaffirm it to yourself. That's like back to what I was saying about like, when I'm in the car in the morning, I literally talk out loud, like to myself, and I like go through a whole list of like everything I'm grateful for, like everyone in my life, like every goal, vision that I have. And I say it out loud and it works. Like it freaking works. Like I look back in my journals of months ago and I'm like, holy shit, like this is it's all unfolding. Like, and it's gratitude is the vehicle of abundance of whatever it is that you're trying to, manifest. If that term resonates with you, if it doesn't, like any goal that you have starts with gratitude. Like be grateful for it before it even comes your way. That's something that I really believe in, is like just allow yourself to feel as if you already have it. And that's what kind of bridges the gap between like maybe where you are now and where you're trying to go.
100%. I'm big on that. And one of the kind of funny things that I do, and I tell people and they look at me like I'm crazy, but it works, is I'll listen to podcasts, and like say I was listening to your podcast and you ask someone a question, I'll pause it and be like, okay, so yada, 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 yada. Like I will answer the question in the car.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah. And it's just like a good way of being like, okay, if I was in this shoe, if I was in that person's shoes, right?
Yeah.
Who do I want to be? How would I want to answer that question? And it's just like, it's been a way for me to be like, okay, I know what I have to do now because I know that's what I want to be. Like, that's the answer I want to give. No, all I have to do is just do the right things to be able to give that answer one day. So it's been like
that's a good like manifesting method. I like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's one I really like a lot, but it, like as I want to get into public speaking eventually, and it's also a good way for me to just kind of work on my ahs and ums.
Yeah, no, you know what it is? It's like, even when I started this podcast, it's like you have to just put yourself out there and you just have to start doing it. Like I was so nervous to start this, and I was like, I had a little bit of experience public speaking, but I was like, I remember being really, shy and like having a list of questions, like asking people when they would come on. And now it's like, I've done this so much now that I'm like, have the confidence in myself to just be able to just like vibe with someone and like learn about them and actually like hear their story and listen to them, rather than like thinking about like, oh, well, what am I going to say next? Like, oh, I'm so nervous. Like, and that can relate to any area of your life. Just like allowing yourself to get into the flow starts with you just putting yourself out there.
Yeah. And it's going to sound very contradictory of like, you have to, like what we said before, like you have to have a plan, you have to show up with intention, but it is true. A lot of the time it's just like, you just got to go, sometimes no plan is the right thing to do, especially when you're just getting started. Like, I tell people ask me all the time, like, how do you journal? I'm like, you just start. Like, you don't have to know, if you want to start a podcast, you don't have to know what microphone you're going to use or what questions you're going to ask. You just start and then you learn, right? You just have to be okay with failing and putting yourself out there, whatever you consider failing to be. And that's one thing that I fall back on with this bear crawl. It's just like, at least I tried, if the day comes and I fail miserably, like, so what, man? Like, I'm the first.
You've gone where no one else has gone before. Like,
you know what I mean? Like, how was I supposed to know? And you're not supposed to know sometimes. Yeah. With a lot of things, it's just like, you haven't even done anything to know anything. So why do you expect to know something? Just start.
Yeah.
And so it's like very contradictory. Like, you have to show up with intention and have a plan. And then like, no, you don't have to have a plan. Just start.
No, I feel that.
And find that balance.
Yeah. It's so like balance is key. Like, being okay with failure too is huge. Like, something else that I've learned too, and I don't know if you relate to this at all, is like, not everyone's going to like you either, especially once you start to put yourself out there more. And like, I've dealt with trolls on, YouTube, on TikTok, and it's like, not everyone's going to like you, and that's okay. Like, it's like the quote, like, you don't even like everyone. So it's like, who cares? That doesn't mean that you should stop putting yourself out there or let you discourage you. And it's really easy to get discouraged, but it's like, you have to persevere through, like, if that seems like a failure to you, like having, haters, trolls, whatever you want to call it, like, just keep going. Like, don't let that stop you. Don't let the bumps in the road stop you. Let them be something that pushes you to go even further. Cause now I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Like, I'm going to go live. And if I have a hater, I'm blocking them. Like, I'm not stopping. Like,
No, if you have the trolls and people that are starting to say stuff about your whatever you're doing, you're probably in the right direction. I mean, I don't want to say, I just started, so I've had a couple, but it's funny how it's mostly, for me, I don't know if you can relate to this, but it's mostly been the people that I've been friends with or thought I was friends with in the past. And now they're nowhere to be found, but I'll hear through the grapevine that they're like, oh, who does he think he is? Like, now, I mean, because they've seen who I was in the past, right? I wasn't this person who lives this kind of lifestyle. Now it's just like, I'm posting it out there. I get it, but it's like, you don't think people can change and people can turn around, then I feel sorry for you. And that's kind of where more of my experience has been with that. It's just like, who does this kid think he is? Or like, who am I to tell you how to live? And it's just like, I'm really not, but
yeah. No, I relate to that like a lot because so like I don't know if you know, but like I stopped drinking almost like 2 years ago, and that was like a big part of that, where it's like the people that knew me in college like knew a very different version of me. And I don't know if they're talking behind my back. I know that some of my friendships have like fallen away because they were people that I was really just friends with in like a setting where we were drinking. But yeah, it's like I'm not sitting here to like try and brag and be like all high and mighty of like I'm so much better than you. I'm literally just sharing my experience and like hoping that someone out there can maybe, relate to what I've been through and like resonate with it. And it's not from like a place of like ego, like placing yourself above someone, as it's not for you either. Like, you're literally just documenting your journey. Yeah.
I mean, I try to think of it. It's funny because I try and think of it of like, I don't have access to the information that I wish I had right now when I'm doing this. So like, how can I redo it and like try and give someone the blueprint of like, okay, I want to do that, but okay, now I have a better idea. I'm not going to hit everything, obviously. But, through that lens, but also, and I think you would be able to relate to this as well, as it comes with like the trolls and the stuff. Like, and it's good that I know you now, because I feel like with Long Island, it's such like, you talk to people all around, and for some reason, Long Island just seems like a hotbed of just like nobody try and goes into this line of work. Like, there's not many people that are trying to like, you know what I mean? I feel
absolutely. I
don't want to say I feel alone sometimes, but I'm just like, I feel like I'm the only one who's interested in like doing the things that I'm doing. So it's good in that sense. But like, after I've, lost those friendships from, my past, it's opened so many doors. Like, the people that I'm friends with now, it's like I can't even believe that I'm friends with these people. Like, these people are so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? So there's some hope there for anyone that's wondering, like, there's trolls or whatever. No, the people that you're going to meet as you keep going are going to be some of the best people ever. And then you keep elevating and elevating. So there is hope, and it is all good.
Yeah. Oh my God. I relate to that so much. Like, and I think we touched on it earlier, but it's like things in your past, or like things will fall away to make space for the things that do belong. So it's like, once I started, really being myself more and living authentically and like not giving a fuck about what anyone thought, like, this is what I'm going to share, I was attracting people into my life, like people coming onto this podcast that I never would have thought that I would like have the honor of like speaking with or being friends with. And it's like, it just goes to show you like how that journey of like evolution and growth can serve you. Like, yeah, things are going to fall away. It might not be easy, but look at how many awesome things are going to be entering your life as you're letting go of the things that don't align anymore.
Yeah, I love that. You have to make the space, and it's all for a reason, whether you can see it or not. It is.
Yeah, definitely.
That's so true.
Do you have any like last minute tips that you would give to anybody listening to this, like mindset? If somebody else has like maybe someone that has a goal that seems really, crazy, unattainable. You have any advice?
Yeah, let's connect. If you do, reach out to me, because I feel like surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded, especially people who, are going through the process of doing something that, you feel is unattainable. I think it's just good to have somebody to keep you accountable and keep you going. But besides that, just remember how lucky you are to be pursuing something that few people can say that they have achieved. I think that's something that I fall back on a lot. It's just like, man, I wouldn't have it any other way, as hard as it can be, or as uncomfortable as it is to put myself out there and, take a risk and maybe fail on a big stage is like really, really cool in itself. So great, gratitude. I always say that, if there's one thing I could give, to everybody to adopt into their life daily, it's just gratitude. When you're thankful, you could probably hear my dog barking.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
If you're just thankful to be here, your options are limitless at the end of the day, because everything's a win. And when everything's a win, that's the momentum, and take it one step at a time. Be small, start small, and consistency compounds. Just keep
yeah. That's like, I always like to tell people, it's like, if you think of anything in your life as like, there's no failures, there's only lessons, right? So like, so you can deem something as a failure, but what if you were to like reframe that as like a lesson? Then everything is a win. And it comes back to gratitude. Like it all comes back to, even the most like painful experiences in your life, the things that seem the most challenging. Like even for me in hindsight now, I'm like, I am so grateful that I went through that, because it led me to being who I am today, like 1,000%. And had those things not happened, I wouldn't be where I am now. So it's like, even things that might seem like a failure in the moment, like having appreciation for them in hindsight is really powerful.
Yeah, 100%. And along with the never stop hustling thing, I literally just got it tattooed on my leg. This will be the last thing. But there's no finish line, never stop hustling. And what never stop hustling means is that there's really no ultimate goal in life. Like this bear crawl is one of my goals, but it's not the ultimate goal. And for anybody that is pushing the limits, whatever that may be, that looks different for everybody else. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to be doing the first thing ever in the whole world. It could mean journaling. It could mean anything, taking that risk. Don't fall into the assumption that achieving that one thing is going to be the end all be all, and that you're going to be the person that you want to be. Because after this bear crawl, God knows what I'm going to have my eyes on. And after it's going to keep going. And that's what there's no finish line means. And I learned this from Matthew McConaughey on a podcast. He has this idea of an immortal finish line. And it's just like in life, you're trying to cross, it's in my Instagram bio, but cross as many finish lines as you can. And it's about your process and the people you meet, what you learn along the process that's going to allow you to cross multiple finish lines. So if you're taking that risk and you feel uncomfortable, just make sure that it's about your process, and you have to take tidbits of information from this process to help you on the next one. And it'll never be about the end goal. As long as you have people who love you, you're alive, everything's good. Just try and take what you can from each moment and each goal, and just keep moving, because it's who you become in the process of becoming, no matter what you achieve. So keep going.
Yeah, I love that. Wow. I love that idea of like always, seeking more finish lines to cross, because it's like the journey, we never reach the final destination, right? It's like we're always still seeking the next thing, and like continue to ask more of yourself, continue to push yourself. Like there's never a point where we've completely healed or completely made it or completely maxed out at our potential. Like your potential is infinite. So I love that idea so much. That's so cool.
Yeah. And I feel like it's been taken into a whole new level of social medias, where now we can visibly see, what we want to be or what we want to look like and all these things. And it's just like, that's never going to be the thing that makes you happy. It's it's the sense of pride that you feel when you get there, but that comes from the process of getting there, not from looking a certain way or achieving something. So just cross as many finish lines as you can.
Yeah. Well, you heard it here, guys. Cross as many finish lines as possible. That's a tattoo right there. That's another one.
Yeah, somebody steal it.
Yeah, right. Well, James, this has been awesome. I want to give you a chance to like plug yourself. So any like websites, things you're, working on, or where people can find you.
Yeah. So most of my stuff goes through my Instagram, which is just at @JamesBoria_. And then I do have a website, which is jamesboria.com. I have a blog that I do post on my Instagram as well, but you can read, obviously the full blog. I only post tidbits on my Instagram. I have a newsletter, which goes out every Monday, called The Insightful Pursuit. And that's pretty much it. Probably going to start a podcast in the future. I have a lot on my plate right now, but eventually that'll happen. And I would love to have you on.
Yeah, well, I would love to be a guest.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, guys. I'm going to leave all the links that James talked about in the description. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll leave them on the screen as well, so you guys can check them out. But yeah, James, thank you. This was really awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.